Hello, guys. Brad here again, and what I thought I would do today, right now, is a top 10 list. And this is going to be kind of different from other top 10 lists that I've done in the past. This is going to be my top 10 list of FragComm Pet Peeves. Now, when I say pet peeves, I mean this basically tongue in cheek. I don't really, get too upset about anything that happens in the fragrance community. But certainly, certain things do kind of make me shake my head a little bit and chuckle, things like that. But I'm not here to offend anybody or to hurt anybody's feelings. I just want to, voice my opinion on, what goes on in the fragrance community. Maybe we can get a good little discussion going, how other people feel about these types of issues. Are they relevant? Is it just, goofiness or whatever? Um, yeah, I was able to come up with 10 things. So, given I was giving this some thought for about a day, and I came up with 10 what I consider to be rather valid pet peeves, and I'm sure there's others out there that would share my feelings about these matters as well. So let's get started. Number 10, Aventus killers. We all know what I'm talking about. I think it probably started with Jaguar Vision, and then we had Fresco, and now we have Insurrection Pure. I think Lamani has one out now, and people are saying it smells a little bit like Aventus. It just kind of bothers me. For one thing, um, when people say a fragrance smells like Aventus, all of a sudden, all these people rush out and they buy this stuff thinking that they're going to smell, like somebody that has a $300 bottle of perfume. And I don't really think that's the case. I think fragrances should be, worn and, and appreciated on their own merit. If somebody said, Fresco is a nice pineapple fragrance, you should buy it, nobody would care. But when people say, oh, Fresco is an Aventus substitute, then everybody thinks they have to have it. That kind of, is a peeve, for me. So that's number 10. Number 9 is discontinued fragrance hype. And when I think about discontinued fragrances and hype, I think the best example that I can think of is probably Terry Mugler's Pure Malt. I remember when that fragrance was discontinued, people were going crazy. They were selling, bottles that were 10% full for like $50, and full bottles hardly used for like $200. It was just nuts. And now that it's been issued, and you can get a bottle probably for $6 or $7, all of a sudden nobody really talks about Pure Malt anymore, and that kind of bothers me. It's the same fragrance, so if you liked it when it was discontinued, you should probably like it, even though you can buy it at the website now. And it's not like everybody in town has a bottle of Pure Malt. Within the fragrance community, I'm sure it's pretty standard to have a bottle, but overall, I can't imagine too many people having it out there in the general public. So that's number 9. Number 8, when reviewers disrespect or ignore designer fragrances once they go niche. And I think you know what I'm talking about. A lot of channels are pretty much exclusively niche right now. And when they do, take the time to talk about a niche fragrance, they, say, oh, it's generic, it's boring, bland, stinks, or whatever. And I think that's unfortunate because I think most designers smell pretty good. It's very rarely that a designer is going to be, horrible. Just because, it's not made with, niche quality ingredients doesn't mean you can't appreciate it. So I'll put that as number 8. And number 7, misrepresentation of positive reviews for polarizing fragrances. And what I mean by that is that I see a lot of fragrances that aren't really overly loved by the general public, like Musk Ravageur, Angel Man, but within the fragrance community on YouTube and Facebook, it's almost like universal love, and that's a shame. I think what happens is people don't want to spend the time to bash a fragrance. It could hurt their their popularity in the fragrance community. They could lose subscribers. They could get thumbs down. So they only talk about fragrances that they really like. And what happens is it makes a fragrance that's not overly loved seem to be that it is that way, and that's unfortunate. Number 6, reformulation woes. And by this I mean, like a great example would be DRO intense. People say, well, what's the stem color? What's the batch? It's like, is it really that different when they reformulated it? I mean, we're talking, the difference between paying $60 and $200 a bottle just for maybe a subtle difference that only true fragrance heads would really pick up on anyway. So I would say, just get the new bottle and quit, getting so caught up in the reformulation nonsense. So that's a bit of a peeve for me as well. And along those lines, batch variation. When we say batch variation, you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about Aventus again. People are always like, well, I have a bottle of Aventus for sale. People are like, well, what's the batch? Is it the fruity batch? Is it the smoky batch? Or people say, I got this batch, and people are like, well, what batch does that smell like? It's like, I've only ever smelled Aventus from a sample, and I liked it. I didn't get all caught up in, well, gee, I wonder what batch it was. So it's a little bit, irksome to me that people talk about batch variations for Creed on and on and on. Number 4, long videos. Now, before I go any farther, I want to let people know that I'm not trying to bash Mark here, because when people think long videos, of course they're going to think about Mark, and I think he has an excellent channel, and he's proven that you can do long videos and make it work. I think unfortunately what happens is people see Mark as like the standard of excellence in video recording. So they themselves think, hey, I should probably do long videos too. Well, if you can talk for 25, 30 minutes and, discuss, in the same kind of way he does, that's great. But, if you find yourself repeating yourself or, just kind of going off on tangents that aren't relevant to the actual video or whatever, well, then maybe you should think about doing a shorter video. I mean, that's my taste. But, whatever works for your channel, but I personally like my videos around 5 minutes. Number 3, lack of reviewers with mainstream taste. And the reason I say this is a lot of channels feature reviewers that are into exotic fragrances, animalic fragrances, unisex or feminine fragrances. Where's all these reviewers that just want to smell like the average Joe? I think what happens is people like that, like people more like myself, I think they become satisfied with what they have and tend to leave the community. I think about Jeremy Clark. I think about Guinea 54. These guys are leaving YouTube, and they kind of had that every man fragrance taste that I really appreciated, and now they're leaving, and the people that just want to experience fragrances for the art of it, they're the ones that tend to keep doing reviews. And it's great that we have that opinion, but I really do wish that there were more reviewers out there that just focused on mainstream appeal. Number 2, thumbing down and unsubscribing to fragrance channels. And what I'm talking about is, it seems to me that anytime you do a fragrance video, somebody has to thumb it down. And a lot of times you notice that somebody unsubscribed to your channel. I'm thinking, what's going on there? Would you unsubscribe to somebody's channel because their opinion was different than yours? You're gonna thumb it down because you didn't agree with their opinion, or maybe you just want them to go away. If that's the case, why not just quit watching your videos? Trying to send this message that if I keep hating your videos, maybe you'll go away. That's not cool as far as I'm concerned. So I get kind of upset. I would never thumb down somebody's video, and if I did unsubscribe, it would probably be because the person was inactive for a year or two, and that's what kind of upsets me. And that brings me to number 1 here: flash in the pan fragrance channels. I notice this a lot. I subscribe to a new channel because they have some great videos out there, and they're going strong for a couple weeks, and then boom, they just disappear. I'm like, where did the videos go? And I think a lot of this happened because of like Fragrance Idol. People just wanted to start a channel because you know it's like they want to get that free bottle of cologne, and as soon as the prize was over, their channel disappeared. And it also happens with other people. They have 10 bottles and they'll review those bottles and then they'll disappear, which leaves me with all these channels in my feed, and I'm not getting any videos from them. I'm thinking if you subscribe to 200 people and each person did one video a month, you should be getting about 7 or 8 videos a day, and that certainly doesn't happen. So yeah, that's pretty much my rant there. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you guys later.